Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Draw near as shadows lengthen at the hour of 3. My name is Carl Johnson. We were thinking of having this indoors, but we have such a sizable crowd, I guess we'll bear with it out of doors. Go indoors later. Yeah. I was hoping my central reader, Steve Buscemi, would show up today, but I don't see him in the crowd, so I'm just getting it done. Well, spring has arrived, and Lovecraft's in the air. So is my brother, author, demonologist, and soloist, Keith Johnson.
Greetings, my friends, and thank you all for being here with us today. My name is Christian Henry Tobler, and it is again my distinct pleasure to preside over this annual observance, as we recognize the unique contributions of Mr. Howard Phillips Lovecraft, forever of Providence, Rhode Island. Were you to enter Swan Point Cemetery precisely 75 years ago, and if you strolled over to the Governor Amasa Sprague plot, on the other side, in the shadow of an obelisk marking the Phillips family plot, you might find a new burial without a headstone. Only a mound of freshly placed sod with the spring grass atop just starting to sprout. This was the final resting place at the time of a rather obscure writer of fantasy stories named Howard Phillips Lovecraft. It would be more than 40 years before a modest headstone inscribed with that name would be placed on the grave next to those of his mother and father. Yet this author has been a major influence on modern horror fiction. Following the orations and recitations here at Ladd Observatory, where H.P. Lovecraft, as an avid amateur astronomer, explored the celestial wonders, all who wish to join us may come as we gather to pay our respects at that gravesite in the Phillips family plot. March 15, 2012 was the 75th anniversary of H.P. Lovecraft's passing. That date also marks 25 years since Carl Johnson presented the first H.P. Lovecraft service of tribute in Swan Point Cemetery. During his early research of Mr. Lovecraft's life, Carl was surprised indeed to discover he and his brother Keith are distant cousins to Mr. Lovecraft, related through Lovecraft's and their mother's side. Incidentally, I too am a distant relation of Mr. Lovecraft, although I found I had to trace back about 1 million years to East Africa to find the connection. But enough of that. To those of you who wish to convene an hour hence at the cemetery, we feel it is prudent to first advise you of Swan Point's policy not to allow filming or photographing within the cemetery grounds. We've been informed this is an issue of privacy. One has to wonder who complains. For those of you who visit the grave of H.P. Lovecraft, be prepared. You might receive a polite reminder of this policy issued from the security staff patrolling in a white vehicle. At other times, that reminder has been an armed security guard standing by until we depart. And on Halloween, a large spotlight is trained on the Lovecraft grave. Sometimes truth is stranger than fiction. So no taking pictures once we enter the cemetery gates. As for you sketch artists, well, I wouldn't chance it. Perhaps they should simply post a sign at the front of the plot reading, "Mourn at your own risk." Ladd Observatory provides a splendid and apropos setting for this occasion. The observatory was built in 1891 and is named for Joseph P. Ladd, who also established Ladd Center and School. H.P. Lovecraft's avid interest in astronomy began when his mother gave him a telescope for his 10th birthday. In his teen years, Howard would ride his bicycle from his home on Angel Street to study the movements of the planets and stars and penetrate the cosmic wonders. This building became one of Lovecraft's favorite haunts, and might still be, since this is one of 2 East Side locations where the shade of H.P. Lovecraft is said to linger. So that tap on your shoulder or sudden rush of chill air could be H.P. We'd sure like to think so. In our audience today are some who are thoroughly familiar with H.P. Lovecraft's body of work, his chilling tales, his poetry, the staggering volume of his personal correspondence, others simply curious about the Lovecraft mystique. I will tell you there is one aficionado who is not here today. Some of you, veterans of tributes years past, may remember the splendid and dramatic readings of The Rats in the Walls done by Mr. John Lose. Still longer veterans may have noticed some progression in Mr. Lose's appearance. One might even say that over time he came to exhibit traces of the Innsmouth look. Now, some will tell you he is not with us here today because he is now living in California. Yes, a very convenient story and cover indeed. I, however, am certain that he is lurking now with the deep ones at the bottom of Narragansett Bay. But it's just a rumor, I don't want it spread too much. But we have much more to share in our presentation, so now let me press on with the business of the hour. H.P. Lovecraft was born in Providence, Rhode Island on August the 20th of 1890. Although during his lifetime his writing was mostly confined to cheaply produced thriller compendiums popular during this time, the best remembered of those being Weird Tales, edited by Farnsworth Wright, and Amazing Stories by Hugo Gensbach, Lovecraft is widely regarded as probably the most important and influential author of supernatural fiction of the 20th century. A lifelong resident of Providence, many of his tales are set here in his native state and in the murky wharfs and inlets of an imaginal sector of Massachusetts, or in the cosmic vistas that exist beyond space and time as we know them. While largely unrecognized as a writer of any real significance during his lifetime, Mr. Lovecraft accomplished something which has propelled many formerly obscure writers, poets, artists, and scholars into prominence. He died unexpectedly. On March 15th of 1937, a horror story of dignity in the face of encroaching poverty and worsening pain was finished. The cause of death was intestinal cancer and resultant nephritis, possibly exacerbated by a less than adequate diet during his last decade of life. Since his untimely passing, 5 months shy of his 47th birthday, Lovecraft has become acknowledged as a master of horror fiction and an acclaimed American writer second only to Edgar Allan Poe, whom he revered. His relatively small body of work has influenced countless imitators and formed the basis of a worldwide industry of books, games, and movies based on his concepts. H.P. Lovecraft's chronicles of the monstrous elder god Cthulhu and his pantheon of alien deities were initially written for the pulp magazines in the 1920s and 30s. These astonishing tales blend elements of horror and science fiction and are as powerful today as they were when they initially appeared. On this occasion, we celebrate that literary legacy and remember the man from whose fertile imagination sprung a foreboding, wondrous, and strangely convincing cosmic mythology. And at this time, I would now like to introduce Carl and reintroduce his brother Keith, who will do a shared recitation of Carl's original poem in Shadow Cats.